Are you feeling overwhelmed or lost in the chaos of daily life? Are you seeking a sense of inner peace and clarity? In today's video, we will be discussing the importance of self-reflection from a Buddhist perspective. Lesson 1. Understanding the Self. Self-reflection is the path to understanding oneself. In Buddhism, the journey inward is the key to wisdom. When we look within, we begin to see the truth about ourselves. The Buddha taught that suffering comes from misunderstanding our own nature. We often see ourselves through the lens of ego and desires. This creates confusion and attachment. To free ourselves, we must observe the mind without judgment. We must be still and watch our thoughts. The practice of mindfulness helps us to see clearly. When we reflect on our actions, we understand why we behave in certain ways. We begin to see the habits and tendencies that shape our decisions. This understanding brings awareness. Awareness helps us to break free from suffering. Meditation is a great tool for self-reflection. Sitting in silence allows the mind to settle. In this stillness, the truth appears. The mind becomes clear, and we begin to see who we really are. Buddhism teaches that we are not our thoughts. We are not our emotions. We are not our past. The self is not fixed. It is always changing. When we cling to a false idea of who we are, we create suffering. Self-reflection allows us to release this illusion. It teaches us that our true nature is beyond labels and identities. The deeper we look, the more we understand. This understanding leads to inner peace. A person who understands themselves can live with wisdom. They do not react out of impulse. They do not get lost in their emotions. They know their strengths and weaknesses. They accept themselves fully. They see their faults, but they do not hate themselves. Instead, they use self-reflection to grow. The Buddha encouraged self-examination. He taught that truth comes from direct experience. We cannot find truth outside of ourselves. We must look within. Through mindfulness and meditation, we begin to see reality as it is. When we know ourselves, we find clarity. Clarity leads to wisdom. Wisdom leads to freedom. The journey of self-reflection is lifelong. There is always more to learn. The more we observe, the deeper we understand. When we understand ourselves, we understand others. This creates harmony in our relationships. It allows us to live with kindness and patience. A life without self-reflection is like a boat without direction. It drifts without purpose. But when we reflect, we take control. We guide our lives with wisdom. We move towards true happiness. Understanding the self is the first step to enlightenment. Lesson 2. Recognizing impermanence. Everything in life is temporary. Nothing lasts forever. The Buddha taught that all things are impermanent. When we deeply understand this, we let go of attachment. We stop clinging to things that change. This brings peace. Life is always moving. Every moment is new. The seasons change. The body ages. Emotions rise and fall. Relationships come and go. If we hold on to things, we suffer. If we resist change, we feel pain. But when we accept impermanence, we find freedom. Impermanence does not mean loss. It means transformation. A flower blooms and fades, but its beauty remains in our hearts. A wave rises and falls, but the ocean is always there. When we stop resisting change, we flow with life. We find harmony with nature. Buddhism teaches that suffering comes from attachment. We hold on to things, hoping they will last. We fear losing what we love. But when we realize that nothing stays the same, we stop fearing change. We embrace life as it is. Meditation helps us see impermanence. When we sit in stillness, we observe the breath. Each breath comes and goes. Thoughts appear and disappear. This simple practice shows us that nothing is fixed. The more we meditate, the more we understand. Impermanence teaches us to appreciate life. Because nothing lasts forever, Every moment is precious. We cherish the people around us. We express love and gratitude. We live fully in the present. Fear disappears when we accept impermanence. We stop worrying about the future. We stop clinging to the past. We trust the natural flow of life. This brings inner peace. Buddhism encourages us to see impermanence in everything. When we reflect on this truth, we become wise. We stop wasting time on things that do not matter. We focus on what is real. A wise person understands that change is natural. They do not fight against it. They adapt and grow. They accept life with grace. Recognizing impermanence is a path to true freedom. Lesson 3. Identifying negative patterns. Negative thoughts and habits cause suffering. If we do not recognize them, they control our lives. Self-reflection helps us see these patterns. It allows us to break free. The Buddha taught that the mind creates our reality. If our thoughts are negative, our life feels difficult. If our thoughts are pure, our life feels peaceful. By watching the mind, we see the patterns that shape our emotions. Some patterns come from fear. Some come from anger. Others come from desire. If we act without awareness, these patterns repeat. But when we reflect, we see the truth. We understand where suffering begins. Mindfulness helps us observe our reactions. When something upsets us, we pause. We do not react instantly. We look within. We ask ourselves why we feel this way. Over time, we see the source of our suffering. Meditation is a tool for breaking negative patterns. When we sit in silence, we notice our thoughts. Some thoughts are harmful. Some are peaceful. We learn to let go of what does not serve us. A person who breaks free from negative patterns lives with wisdom. They do not let anger control them. They do not hold on to grudges. They do not fall into the same mistakes. They choose their actions wisely. Buddhism teaches that transformation begins within. No one else can change our minds for us. We must do the work. But when we do, we find peace. Lesson 4. Developing compassion. Compassion is the heart of Buddhism. It is the key to happiness. When we reflect on our own suffering, we understand the pain of others. This understanding creates kindness. The Buddha taught that all beings seek happiness. No one wants to suffer. When we see this truth, we become more patient. We forgive more easily. We treat others with love. Compassion does not mean weakness. It means strength. A kind heart is powerful. It brings peace to the world. To develop compassion, we must first be kind to ourselves. When we accept our flaws, we stop judging others. We see that everyone struggles. This creates connection. Meditation helps us grow in compassion. We sit in silence and send love to others. We wish for their happiness. This practice opens the heart. A compassionate person is peaceful. They do not seek revenge. They do not hold hatred. They bring light wherever they go. Lesson 5. Letting go of ego. The ego causes suffering. It makes us feel separate. It creates pride and attachment. Buddhism teaches that true happiness comes from letting go. The ego wants control. It wants to be right. It wants recognition. But these desires only bring pain. When we release the ego, we find freedom. Meditation helps us let go. We observe our thoughts without attachment. We see that we are not the ego. We are something deeper. A person free from ego lives with peace. They do not seek approval. They do not hold grudges. They live in harmony with others. Lesson 6. Achieving enlightenment. Enlightenment is the ultimate goal of Buddhism. It is freedom from suffering. It is seeing reality as it is. The path to enlightenment begins with self-reflection. We observe the mind. We release attachments. We develop wisdom. A person who reaches enlightenment is free. They do not cling to the past. They do not fear the future. They live in perfect peace. Lesson 7. Enhancing decision-making. Wise decisions come from self-awareness. When we reflect, we see clearly. We make choices that lead to peace. Buddhism teaches us to pause before acting. We consider our intentions. We choose actions that bring harmony. A mindful person makes wise decisions. They do not act out of impulse. They follow the path of wisdom. Self-reflection is the key to a peaceful life. It leads to wisdom. It brings true happiness. When we understand ourselves, we find freedom. This is the path of Buddhism.